Well, thank you very much. We had a terrific meeting. We discussed a lot of things. As you know, I had an excellent phone call with President Putin that lasted for over 2 hours. We discussed a lot of points that I do think we're getting a lot closer, maybe very close. The president that I just spoke to and the European leaders, I just think we're doing very well. We could be very close. There are 1 or 2 very thorny issues, very tough issues, but I think we're doing very well. We've made a lot of progress today, but really, we've made it over the last month. This is not a one-day process deal. It's very complicated stuff. But I think when the president says 95, I think, it could be close to 95%. One of the thorniest issues is that some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months, and you're better off making a deal now. Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. I think it's time to end. And a lot of very brave people, a lot of people that did right now, unfortunately, because I've said, and nobody's disputed it, that if the election weren't rigged and stolen, 2020, you wouldn't have had this war. It would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Never was even thought to happen. And I spoke with President Putin. I got along with him very well, despite the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax. He used to say, "What is going on over there?" But it was a total hoax, as he knew and as I knew. But I spoke to him and we'd talk about Ukraine. I've said it before. It was the apple of his eye. But he wasn't going to do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it until I was gone. And then a lot of really bad statements were made by people. By a lot of people, I guess, but by a certain president that we had, who was a disaster. Maybe in a few weeks the war could be over. And if it went poorly longer, and if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame. There's that chance also. It's possible it doesn't happen. But in a few weeks we will... No, one way or the other, I think. But if it went really well, but it could also go poorly. I mean, we could have something where one item that you're not thinking about is a big item, breaks it up. Look, it's been a very difficult negotiation, very detailed. So I settled 8 wars. Some were going on for 35 years, and we got them settled in a couple of days. Some of them, one was going on for 37 years. I settled there one day. But this is a very complex one. I see a trilateral meeting between both President Putin and Zelensky happening, sure, at the right time. I saw a very interesting, President Putin did that. I mean, he wants to see it happen. He wants to see it. He told me very strongly. I believe him. Don't forget, we went through the Russia hoax together. And he'd call me, I'd call him, I'd say, "Can you believe the stuff that they're making up?" And it turned out we were right. They made it all up. And despite that, we didn't get into wars or we didn't get into problems, but we weren't able to trade very much or any of that, which was a shame because, a lot of success could have been had by trading with Russia. They have great land, great minerals and other things, and we have things that they want very badly. But the Russia hoax, which was a terrible, made-up, fictional thing by Crooked Hillary and by Adam Shifty Schiff and bad people, sick people, they made it up. It was all a made-up hoax. But it kept us really from dealing with Russia, kept Russia dealing from dealing with us. So, but despite that, we've got along. And I don't know. I think we're going to get there. I know him very well. I think we're going to get there. President Zelensky mentioned maybe a meeting with European leaders back in Washington or someplace. These leaders are great people. You know, they've spent a lot of money on helping Ukraine. And look, they're doing it for themselves also, meaning their country, because Ukraine's a very important country for them, in particular for us. It's very important. To me, it's the lives. You know, we're thousands and thousands of miles. We're protected by a thing called the Atlantic Ocean, and lots of other places, to be honest. And they're not, you know, they're right there. But we're working together with them as we should be. But I'm doing it to save lives. You know, we're not spending any money. Biden gave $350 billion away, and the president was nice enough to give us a contract to take out rare earth and things. So we'll see how that all works out. We have a contract, but we appreciated that. He was very good. But we'll see how that works out. But if you think about it, we're going to have... I really believe we're probably, Mr. President, closer than, by far closer than ever before, with both parties. We had some times when he was close and President Putin wasn't. Then we'd have President Putin was close and he wasn't. You saw that in the White House. But I think they both want to see it happen. There will be no ceasefire. And that's one of the points that we're working on right now. No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, you know, they're fighting and to stop, and that if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position. The president feels strongly about that or something. But I think we're finding ways that we can get around that. But I understand President Putin from that standpoint. You know, you have to understand the other side. And I'm on the side of peace. I'm on the side of stopping the war. But I think that's a problem that's going to get solved. In my conversation with President Putin, I discussed what responsibility Russia will have for any kind of reconstruction of Ukraine. And they're going to be helping. Russia is going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity and other things at very low prices. So a lot of good things came out of that call today.